Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Mindset Podcast, brought to you by the Opportunities for Youth in Africa, or OYA program. OYA is a joint initiative of the UN Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, and the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. Featuring interviews with inspiring young entrepreneurs from across the African continent, this podcast is about seizing opportunities, overcoming and learning from setbacks, and succeeding in a variety of settings to fulfill your business ambitions. And now, over to our host.
Thanks everyone for joining us yet again on this episode of the Entrepreneur Mindset podcast series brought to you by OYA program, which is Opportunities for Youth in Africa. And on this series of episodes that we've been doing, we hope that we can be able to inspire you, to give you some tips and tricks here and there to help you run your business, but also understand the agriculture sector a little bit more through the eyes of young entrepreneurs that are doing amazing stuff. And I'm super excited about this episode, first of all, because it's a special story, very exciting, very interesting. I hope to learn it. And, for me, the entrepreneur herself is such a force to reckon, coming from being a beauty queen to empowering women, not just in any sector, but helping them get finance, insurance, and support their businesses in Zambia. So we are joined by Zindaba Hanzala. She's the former Miss Zambia and now the founder of a social enterprise, Mulimi. Zindaba, it's really great to have you. I am, first of all, happy to be having this conversation with you. I've read so much, but I want to know so much as well and see, and get to understand the amazing work that you're doing in Zambia. Just tell us a little bit about Mulimi.
Okay, thank you, Maggie, for having me. I'm very grateful. So, like you had said, our organization, Mulimi, is a social enterprise that is working to help farmers, smallholder farmers and emerging farmers access financing, products on the market, insurance, but we also have integrated our products and services with extension services and access to market. So we are building an ecosystem together. That is what we do at Mulimi. Yes.
Interesting. As I was reading to get to know even you more, the transition from, being a Miss country, obviously you have to go to Miss Universe, supermodels. I mean, it's up there. It's just not for everybody. And then, transitioning to agriculture. I would love to really understand that. Is this something you loved even before you got into the beauty contest to become probably the Miss Zambia?
Well, I was raised by my grandmother, who was a smallholder farmer. And for me, holidays meant we spent it in the field. And when I got the opportunity to become Mrs. Zambia, to represent my country on the global world, the global stage, I really wanted to do more for women like my grandmother. So one of the reasons why actually Mulimi was formed is my grandmother had Parkinson's disease. And I have a vivid memory of how we could not afford medical care for her. So I wanted to use my platform as Miss Zambia, Beauty with a Purpose, to just bring access to medical insurance closer to the farmers. And it started as a charity, as me just trying to help women in my community access healthcare insurance. And that's how Mulimi was born. Before you know it, we were buying seed for the women, giving it to the women in our community, and just trying to work with the insurance companies in my country, in my community, to make sure that the women have access to insurance. And that's how we started. And yeah, one step at a time. And now we've worked with about 3,800 farmers. And for me, I think that is a big success for me. It's a big success, yeah.
I mean, I promise you that is such an incredible story, because also I had seen that you had been raised by your grandmother. But that brings me to the point of probably passion, because ultimately for you it was like, okay, let me support and then it became a business, and it became a bigger thing, and then became a business? Is it something beyond just being raised in a household that was into that? This is something you are passionate about? And who do you say is better to run a business that you actually feel passionate about? Because, I would love to understand the dynamics.
The reason why I think passion is the number one drive that you need to have as an entrepreneur is, for a very long time, you're going to do it and you probably will not make so much money. Or if you make some money out of it, you're lucky. So for me, so when I started my business, I was driven by passion. And because of the passion that I had to make a change in my community, to make a change for the smallholder farmers, so many doors were opened for me, because when people see that you have a drive, you have a passion, every day people are watching. Look at me, I'm here on this beautiful platform because there is always somebody watching, and they see the passion you have for whatever you're doing, and opportunities will come your way. So I think passion for me is number one, because it does get lonely in this entrepreneurship journey. And my goodness, what am I doing to myself? Let me just throw in the towel and I move on. And agriculture itself, long-term investment. We have this notion where everybody nowadays, especially, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in my Zambia, people think agriculture is a quick fix. No, it's not a quick fix. You need to have the patience. You need to understand the soils. You need to understand the market. So it takes a lot of time for you to actually get back a return on your investment. So passion is your number one drive, because you will go to that market that day. You had a tomato price of, that when you go to the market, you sell your tomatoes at $100, and you go to the market, you find that it's $10. What do? Do you just leave the boxes there and move on to the next big thing? You actually carry on, and passion is what makes you carry on. So passion is number one. Yeah.
When you Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying, even just thinking about it just makes me look back at my own journey and how passion has been able to drive me to where I am today. Because there'll be people who will be like, oh, you could easily get a contract in Europe, you could go back to your modeling career and you will easily get a job there and you'll be able to do modeling again because you already have a network. But I think for me, it's beyond, being out there, people seeing what I do. It's the smiles that I see on the faces of the farmers when they're able to pay school fees for their kids. The smile when you see people harvesting and to say, oh my God, after we did this soil test, we now understand the type of crops that need to go in our soil. For me, I think that is really what gives me peaceful sleep at night. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. And obviously the impact that you see. I mean, when you're talking about it, running a business is not easy. I feel like I am there. I understand that every day is a way to rethink. Should I continue? Should I look for a job? Should I, and then the people that have relied on you, the teams and all of that, becomes a dilemma. But again, I've equally been raised in a village somewhere in Africa. I feel like Africa is the same in one way. You grow up somewhere and then you move to the town. And there is that stereotype we've had about farmers for a very long time. Yeah. That even farm households, I remember my mother used to say, we're going to go to the garden. I'm like, oh, I don't go to the farm. So you understand, because of how they made us look at it. And statistically, you see research that says, an average age of a farmer is 65 years. But farming or agriculture is actually bigger than that. It's not that everybody's going to go and get the hoe and be able, I am assuming it's a different space that has, support systems that actually move pieces here and there. How do you deal with that stereotype? Being young, being the fact that you were a model, being the fact that you are Miss Zambia, being internally, not even just from people saying that. How do you deal with that?
I'll start with telling you one little story. So when I wore my superhero jackets, the first thing I did was to go and find an insurance company that would be willing to take the risk on the farmers. And I walked there. I was so sure I was dressed right. I was smelling right. And I walked into this office. There were about 7 men seated in that boardroom. And we had a chat. I prepared this little PowerPoint presentation, why farmers did insurance. And after the conversation, they were like, okay, it was nice to meet you. Where are you, Miss Zambia? Oh my God, I know you. Then I'm like, I was trying to sell a product to you. I don't want you to look at me as Miss. I want you to see me as a person now that is trying to do some work for the farmers in the agriculture sector. I walked out of that office and I was really depressed. I get to the reception and the elderly woman that was there was like, how did it go? I'm like, not so good. So she's like, well, did you ever think that maybe it's because of the way you dress? And then I'm looking at myself, which was very horrible. But at the end of the day, I got to understand that every industry you have to learn how to approach, how to carry yourself. And that was for me an opportunity to grow. I actually adopted this headgear on my head. From that day, I was like, each time I go for it, I'll wear the same.
Yeah.
And then I went to the same people. I asked for a meeting 1 year later. And I went, obviously my dress was a bit different, but I kept the same dress, but I tried this Chitambala. And they listened. So I was a bit older to them. I looked like somebody who would actually do something in the industry because they judged me from the fact that I was young. And probably I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. So there's been a lot of stereotypes where people would be like, Ish, can you just get a real job? Just get a real job like everybody else, whatever you're doing, working.
I'm so hustling.
Yes, and there are times where I've even considered taking a job. I'm like, okay, maybe this is not the thing for me. Let me try something else. And then also when you talk about agriculture finance, nobody wants to take the risk. You know, we're all talking about it. Everybody talks about it, but nobody is really taking the step to actually do something about it. So when you talk to people to say, are you able to take a risk on these farmers? They're like, no, farmers are not this and that. We can't do that. And you go back, you sit, you're like, oh my goodness, what can I do? So it's really been very tough. And I did go for about 6 years without actually making any money. We were barely surviving, yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, it was
That's
just
a long time.
because we were driven by impact. So we had now to rethink our model to say, okay, we understand that this business is impact driven, but then at the end of the day, sustainability is everything. When you're also teaching the farmers about sustainability, you also, as an organization, needs to adapt methods that will make the company profitable and remain sustainable. And we had to look at that, and we changed our model, and I think it's really helped us. And finally, we're able to pay our salaries on time. Yeah, so it's it's been, but worthwhile.
I think one of the hardest things, even, and your story is so interesting. I mean, I can imagine people would be like, can we give you a job? Can you be can you be this? But then you go back and I think for me, this is where my question comes in, because we all get those in different, even some of us who are not entrepreneurs, even in everyday life. How do you deal with those moments where you feel like you're about to give up?
I paint. I take some time off and I paint. But then at the end of the day, I know what I want to get out of it. I sit down, take a break, and just reflect on the reason why I started Mulimi in the first place, was to help women like my grandmother who cannot afford access to medical care, access to proper financing products. And for me, that is my driving force, because their stories and their smiles every day really make me want to do it over and over and over again. When you visit an old woman in the community that has a small little book where they write their records, they're keeping records, for me, that is success. So that keeps me going.
What is a typical day like for you? I always feel like I don't even know how my days go. Some days I'm just not in the mood. Other days I don't sleep at all. What is a typical day like for you? Are there those things that you do on a daily basis to keep you energized, to keep you in mentally at least in check?
Okay, so my day starts with I love, like I said, I love to paint. So I have this drawing book. I love to paint with a colored pencil. So in the morning when I wake up, I take 30 minutes. Even my children know that is mommy's special book. You do not touch it, otherwise she will put you back in a tummy. So I start with painting a little bit in the preparing my kids for school, because one of the reasons why I actually wanted to start my business was because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I wanted to be there. And, you know, I wasn't going to do that with having a full-time job. So I had to, that is one of the reasons. So I help with preparing my kids for school. And then obviously I go to the office and check on the team, but there's just so much to do. You know, as an entrepreneur, so many things are going wrong. You as the vision carrier, you have to, even if you have a setup day, you will find yourself doing what you are not supposed to do, because at the end of the day, it's your vision, you know where you want it to go. And especially in the beginning, you know, when everything is in your heads, before you actually have systems, you will be everywhere. You will be everywhere trying to micromanage. But then, yeah, that is my typical day. I think I don't even know what my typical day is, but I just know that I do it at 11 p.m. And then you are just realizing, oh my goodness, did I miss bedtime story? But yeah, it's hectic. It's hectic.
I know. I always ask myself, I always feel like I just never have enough time in a day. Obviously, when I was employed, I had so much time. But when you're running your own thing, you feel like I just never have enough time on a day. I mean, one of the things that really is very pivotal or at the heart of a lot of sectors, especially involving women in Africa, is financing. And you're into this space of financing. Access to finance is very hard. Even as entrepreneurs, just accessing the funding, or even grants, or even just being able to look for loans or support from financial institutions all over the continent is really very hard. And historically, we've had cases where women have had to have their husbands stamp or guarantee that, you know, you can give a loan and stuff like that. And it feels like we've made steps, but still there is the biggest challenge. Even when you speak to 100 women and you put them there, probably 99 of them would say, I don't have money. There's absolutely no access to finance. And I think when I was reading one of the articles about you said something like sustainable financing solutions or something like that. But it's very hard to find sustainability when it comes to accessing finance. I just want to know, how do you deal with this? And even as an entrepreneur, getting that finance for the business, for the women that you're supporting, isn't that really one of the hardest challenges? And if so, for you, how do you go about that? And what would you tell entrepreneurs out there like myself who have never even got access to $1? What shall we do? You know, there's that song that says, what shall we do, really? You know?
What shall we do?
Yeah.
Firstly, number one is understanding that agriculture is a business. Farming is a business. One of the reasons why we do not get a lot of financing in our sector is because we are all doing it as a whole. We are doing it because it's generational. My grandmother used to farm, so I inherit the farm. I am planting the same way she used to use, the same old method of planting. I do not test my soil. There's just so much going on, and that is what we're trying to change. So what we do in our is we have a record-keeping program, a financial literacy program for the farmers to help them understand as a business. You know, farming as a business, whether it's a family business, you need to have systems. And it's just like an entrepreneur. I was talking about myself, my own business, that for so many years we went by not getting anything out of it because we did not have the proper systems. So it's the same thing with the farm. You need to know what kind of crops are we growing? How much do we need? You need to do projections, because when you go to a financer, they will need to know exactly what you're doing. You know, you can't say, no, last season there was a bumper harvest, so even this season we're expecting a bumper harvest. There are so many tools. We have meteorological department in Zambia where you can collect information about the season. At least you can use that as a benchmark to be able to project on how much you're going to produce or how much rainfall you're going to get. So that is the idea. You need to find, that's how we do it. We make sure that every member that is working with us is managing their farm, managing their farming activity as a business, because that is the starting point. When we have had talk conversation with say, for instance, with the banks, what they will need to know, what is the KYC of these farmers? We would like to know their information history. And it looks like it's a very silly thing, but then at the end of the day, even for your own good as a farmer, when you have a little story to tell, how much did you produce from the 100 kg seeds that you planted? You are able to evaluate if you're doing the right thing. Maybe it will even give you an idea, right soil for my farm. So ideally, farming as a business is about double checking every single detail of your activity. Because when you double check, you're able to give the proper need, whatever needs to be done in your farm. So that is what we do. We have this farming as a business tool that we provide to everyone that we work with, our members. So that is how we're doing it. And it looks like it's working, because we now have a 3-year contract with the Central Bank of Zambia to provide the financial.
Amazing. And that's amazing.
So it's the little things, the little things like you being able to keep a receipt when you go to the market, you being able to write when you spread your field, your tomato field. So it's those little things, those little things that add up.
I mean, I hope we are able to pick from some of those tips. You mentioned earlier that you work with about 3,000 farmers, but also you have a team that you actually work with to help you support with business. I feel like one of the hardest things for me that I've experienced has been putting together a team that can support, because from books that we've read, they would tell you a team makes a company or not. Is this something, how do you actually build a great team? And from your experience of even working over the 6 years and more, how has it been for you? Are there some experiences you could share, we could tap into?
So I think number one in career is understanding where your strength is. So my strength is I am impact driven. I am a people person. I will sell our idea to investors. I will sell our idea to potential partners, but I am a horrible manager. I do not know. I am horrible. So for me, what we did in our business, what I did in my business, is identifying somebody that understands what putting a team together really means. And I was so lucky. I got two people. I found two people that were able to help me create that system in my business. Because it's true that if you don't have the right team, you will really not grow. And for so many years, I did not have the right team. I was looking at impact. I was all about, let me help. This person is about career development. And then we would drift away. We would find that we're not even meeting our targets because we are all doing whatever we want to do. We are all focused on impact, but then we are not focused. We need people that are also focusing on sales. They are focusing on marketing of the business. So I think for me, you need to understand as a vision carrier, as the founder or as the CEO of your business, what your strength is. And if you find that your strength is not a team builder, it's not somebody that will hold the other people, then you identify if you're able to find somebody that is able to help you. Everybody sees the passion of our business. For me, that is my strength. And everyone is like, oh my goodness, if Zindaba is able to sit up to 11 p.m. to do that, to go the extra mile and do the work over and over, I think my team are inspired to want to do that because they see me doing it. They will find that I'm at before they get there. So everybody's like, oh my goodness, what time did you get here? And you had to drop your kids at school, but we still find you here. So for me, it's about me knowing my strength and understanding the type of people that I should have around me. It's very hard. It's really hard to get the right team because then
the right people.
My goodness, it's really hard. And for me, that is one of the reasons why you would find that we were not growing because we didn't have the right team. I found fellow impact-driven people in my business. Everybody was just thinking about impact. We would find we're doing so much community work. But then at the end of the day, when we look at revenue, we get to the end of the month and we're like, oh my goodness, we actually don't have money for salaries. But because they're employees, they have bills to pay. They have children they need to take to school. So now the burden falls on you. So then you have to think what do you do? Who you bring in to help you grow so that you are able to get everything going? Yeah.
Yeah, and identifying even those managers usually is very hard. Like it's for me, I think it's one of the biggest challenges of probably of running a business. But obviously, you know, like you said, we have to, like, quoting your own words, sustainability is very important. So we have to find people that can actually be able to build that. I just want to take a step and look at you operating as a young woman in the business space. Have you encountered stereotypes that have made you feel like, you know, it's a space that, you know, probably is a bit challenging? And what are some of those things you do to equip yourself? Like, I know myself, I always say I need to get my game face on, but ultimately I shouldn't have a game face. It should be fair game. But because I know, you know, the world at some point, even as we struggle, some people will look through a different lens. Do you experience that?
Every day, every single day.
How do you deal with that?
I know what I want and how I've learned to say no.
So all eyes on the prize. It's like all eyes on the prize.
No, sometimes it's okay to say no. There's a time we had a meeting where a company was offering to put a lot of money in our business. And what they stand for as an organization is not in line with our values as an organization. And it was the hardest decision I had to make in my life, where the people from the other company were like, oh, you will never grow, you know? But then I said no, and I'm at peace, because then it's an opportunity that I don't think you missed, but then it has to be in line with your values, because I think at the end of the day, your values are what determine who you are, your character. Your values are what are going to make people want to associate with you. So every single day I'm making those tough decisions and saying, oh my goodness, that was a very good opportunity that we just missed. So you just focus on yourself and say, you know what, maybe this is not for me right now. And no is the number one. If you feel you're being disrespected, say it out. No, I think that is wrong. You know, there's stereotype where people, me being a model, you know, people sexualize modeling. People think models are sexual objects. So there are people who've passed comments like that to me. And sometimes in the beginning, it used to get to me and I would cry. But then now I have learned and I know my value. I know to stand for myself, and I just say no. I know my craft. I am always looking for opportunities to improve myself. Always I try to enroll in as many courses as possible to just help me grow, team building courses, you know. But no for me is the number one. If something is wrong, no, you cannot do this. No. Eyes on the ball, like you said. Eyes on the ball,
and values stuck there. I mean,
yes.
To what importance, or is it that important for a business owner or a founder to equip themselves most of the time with these courses? To what importance is it? Because I see a lot of people lately take a lot of courses. Is this something you would even advise people, for example, in the agriculture space to do? Has it helped you in any way?
Yes, it has. I do not have a financial background, but because I have told myself I'm going to learn this industry, I wish my mother would be happy if I could get that financial degree. But what I do is I associate myself with programs that will really enhance my business. Especially when you talk about agriculture financing, you need to understand why is everyone staying away from it. So I try myself attend as many webinars as possible if there's an opportunity to learn, because from these learning opportunities, you will meet people that will invest in your business. So it's really important, always be on top of your game, because if you are not, you will become obsolete. Somebody else everybody's thinking of the same idea, but there's always that person that is 10 steps ahead of you. So how do you now keep yourself 10 steps ahead of your competition? Because that's what we're all doing. We're trying to survive. We're all trying to get our business out there, and we're all trying to meet our values and our goals. So it's really, really important to always improve yourself. Like I said, my story is impact. I have people that have got amazing educational backgrounds in my business. But then when they come to you, I'll give an example. If you don't know what a cash book is as a business owner, and somebody's showing you the cash book, oh, this is our cash book, this is what has been happening in and out of the business. You need to equip yourself as a business owner. You need to have that basic understanding so that you are at par with your team, you are at par with whatever is happening in your business. So never miss an opportunity, because from opportunities, learning opportunities, you'll be able to get other opportunities that will help you grow your business. Yeah.
I mean, that's so true. I find myself becoming a video editor, sometimes human resource, sometimes accountant, sometimes, and I'm just like, you cannot do it all. But again, coming back to what you've said, it's easier because when somebody sends you, for example, a video, you know where it's wrong. You know how to say, no, this is not how we're doing it. And it makes, and I guess even in other sectors, it is the same. I mean, we've talked about, we haven't touched on partnerships as yet, but we've talked about, all of these things from teams and, building teams and passion and some of the things to consider. But, have you, and you've mentioned as well, some of the partners you've got on board and you said no to them. In your own experience, what would you say are the 3 pillars of probably running a business that is sustainable? Of all the things you probably have touched on, if you would point out 3 things and you say, for me, when you have these rights, I think you're on the right trajectory. Also success, we can't define it.
You can't. But I think for me, the number one that stands out is the values. When you understand the values of your business, you'll be able to align with people that believe in you. You'll be able to find opportunities that will see the value in whatever you're doing. So values are really important. If you are an organization that is advocating for non-GMO seeds, should not be found tomorrow with people that are selling GMO seeds. It really makes you look dodgy and looking like you do not know what you're doing. And then 2, there's nothing wrong with having multiple revenue streams in your business, but be aligned to one. You cannot be in agriculture, then you are doing, yes, technology can be an enabler in agriculture, but then what you need to do is to find a way to unify whatever you're doing so that it's showing you know what you're doing. So value and then finding your niche is really important. I have found my niche. Mine is to be able to bring the ecosystem together so that we can provide the service to the 4 pillars of my business: the finance, the insurance, the access to market, and the technical support closer to the farmer. So understanding your niche is really, really important. What makes you different from the next person? You need to find that. And then passion. We already talked about it, but at the end of the day, when you have passion for what you're doing, you will go places, because even when there is a rainy day, you will still carry on. You will still want to do it over and over. You will fail so many times, but because of your passion, you will wake up tomorrow morning, even if you do not feel like doing it. But because there's that little passion in your heart, you will get up and do it. So these are the 4: your value, your niche, and your passion. Yeah.
I agree. I agree on each one of those, but it's very hard to actually get all of them right. But again, we are heading there, and it's great to really learn from you. But I want to bring in the fact that, we all have had those moments. And obviously running a business for over 6 years means you've had moments where you've literally been at the bridge of breaking. Have you had any of those moments? And when you get to that moment, can you share that worst moment that you've had so far in your business and how you dealt with it?
We had a contract with an organization that was providing markets to our farmers. It was a beautiful, and they were, ideally, we were supposed to produce the products, then they would send them to the UK, so which meant that the farmers are getting a very good price. And for me, it was like, my goodness, we hit God. We did it the first year and it worked out beautifully. The second year, we were more aggressive on our marketing. We found more farmers to do it. And the organization, without even notice, just said, I'm sorry, we cannot buy. Oh my goodness. You have over 400 farmers that are depending on you, on your organization, that have believed in your dream. You've sold them this dream. For me, that was a turning point. It made me understand that, sometimes when you look at big companies having a legal team in their business, there's a reason why they have a legal team, because it's not just one person that is affected. It's not just the company is affected. It's also the other people that are also connected to the company. For me, that was my breaking point, because now we had to find alternative markets for the farmers. And we took up a burden that wasn't even supposed to be ours. So we moved from our value, but our value is to help the farmer become sustainable. And we stuck to it. But then we had to move from our business as usual to now literally get these products and services, start looking for markets day in, day out, knocking on people's doors to say, this is what happened. We wrote to the people that have been funding this organization to see if they're able to help us. But hey, the world doesn't work like that. And for me, that was my breaking moment, because then it made me understand that, you know what, people will be people. People change, so you need to have a plan B. So now, this farming season, we are now ready. Before we go into any contract with any company, we have also now gotten a legal team. We've gotten legal people to help us understand contracts, because then we've seen the need. But it happens with time. As you grow, you find you get to learn a bit more. Yeah, that was the point. Biggest one so far.
In that moment, she just took it as a lesson for you. It was like, okay, this won't break me. I will go ahead with it.
So sad. Yeah, it broke me a little bit. It did break me a little bit, but then, you know, because the team sees that we do not sell, we try something else. Everybody was like, oh, maybe we need to go and visit this company in Zindaba. Maybe there's another person we could talk to that's able to help. But then that was my breaking point. I felt like my tired was tired. I couldn't do it anymore. It was just like, oh my goodness, after all the work, a whole 9 months of preparing the farmers, training them, going through the training, helping them understand how do you handle the crops post-harvest. It was really, really horrible. But we carried on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, and I think that brings us to the fact where you say that you need to identify a team that aligns with your vision, because now they bring options and, you know, they're able to guide you. Otherwise, if you have a team that is just there for the money and they are not aligning with your vision, this is when they start looking for jobs and leaving.
Yes.
So again, it's very important for entrepreneurs to understand that the team matters.
True. We did have a few that left us during that time. So yeah, it is very true. Very true.
Yeah.
I keep saying to my team, I say, I am not looking for followers, you know. I am looking for soldiers, people that will go out there and make a change. Because when you find the soldiers in your team, they will be ready for war all the time. They are ready, they have their gun, and they are like, who do we need to shoot? What do we need to do? So you need to have soldiers. It's really important. Have an interview for me. That's my number one question. Are you a soldier or a follower? What are you really looking for? When people say, oh, and me being a beauty queen, people are like, oh, you inspire me. I want to be like you. No. Yes, that's cute. But at the end of the day, I don't want you to idolize me. I want you to create something for yourself, to be able to find your value also as a person. Because when you find your value, we will get to align at some point. So yeah, find the soldiers and not the followers.
Oh, that's
yeah.
When you find soldiers in your team, they will be able to work. I'm not going to forget that. So obviously, probably this is something I'm going to have to put on at the back of my mind still. This is really awesome. If you had one thing you wish you had known before getting into this space, what would it have been?
Systems. Getting your system. Yeah.
What do you mean?
You know, you need to have systems. People need to know what they're working on. You need to know what the targets are for the company. But that can only happen if you have a system. Do you have, are you in line with the taxes in your organization, in your country? Are you tax compliant? Are you registered? Everything, systems. You can never overemphasize systems. I have found myself in trouble because we forgot to sign for, say for instance, we give our agents phones, like small smartphones to call the farmers and everything. And in the beginning, we would always just give. And we found that when people leave, they stop working for us. They do not bring back the property, the company property. And that for me is part of a system. When somebody is new in the company, make them sign. let them understand what is required from them. Because if you're just working, and that's what we do as entrepreneurs, sometimes you just say, okay, you are an administrative assistant, you will be my PA. They do not even understand what you require from them. But then if you have systems and you've written down what everybody is supposed to be doing, you'll be able to understand where your business is going. And I learned this, I remember when I was just starting, I started with consultancy. I went to visit one small scale farmer. Well, she was small, now she's a commercial farmer. We got to her farm, one of the workers was asking for $1. They asked for $1. And she had a little book. She got the little book and she made him sign for the $1. So when she was dropping me off,
$1.
Yes, $1. And when she was dropping me off, she paid me and she got out a book and she made me sign. So when we got to, we got to learn each other. I asked her, but why do you do that? Like, you can't just give your workers $1. She's like, my farm is a business. And every penny that comes out of the farm needs to be accounted for. If I'm going to be giving $1 a day in 30 days, that is $30 I am stealing from the business. I need to document every single penny that goes in and out of my business. Even if I give it as a charity, but then I need to document it. And for me, like I said, it was all about the impact, getting good social media presence, people seeing that I am doing beauty with the purpose, looking pretty and changing the world. I did not really look at the systems. But when I look back and I calculate the books, I'm like, oh my God, has my business been making these millions? But I do not have these millions. I haven't seen them. But because we did not have a good system, a good financial system, everything was coming in, it was going out, coming in, going out. Everybody can sign. If I want to get some money from my business over the weekend because I have run out of paintbrush, I get money from the business. But then with the system, when there's a system, if I am looking for money and I do not have, I have to get a loan and I need to find a way to pay it back. So systems guide you and they help you to grow. And when it's time for you to go to a bank to look for money or to get an investor, when they come to you, you can easily just get out your system and say, this is what we do. This is our operating system. This is what we do, A, B, C, D. Everybody is expected to do this. So systems. I would be a billionaire by now if I knew my system.
As you're speaking, I'm thinking, I'm literally trying to calculate how many dollars have I given out. I probably have given out a couple of dollars. I probably give out maybe a couple of $200, $300 a month. And you have no idea. This is unbelievably eye-opening. And it reminds me of a time I was with a friend of mine who refused to give out like 50 cents. And I was so angry. I was like, you just have to tip. They're like, no, it's money. But that's really very, very eye-opening for me. I hope anybody listening in also is able to relate to that. Like you mentioned, at the end of the day, investors or banks want to see progress. They want to see the company has been growing, the company has been moving, the company has been doing this and this and that. And wow.
Systems all the day. Systems.
I'm going to have to go back and redo my books. Now, in instances where you don't have a big team, you can't build a system, what do you do? Is this where you hire freelance accountants?
Yes, you outsource. And you will find that when you outsource, they actually work better. When the time comes for you to grow, you will be able to just carry the system that was developed for you because they've developed it. So it's okay to outsource and there's nothing wrong. There's no shame with it. We did it. We've done it. We do it all the time. It helps us. Like say, for instance, I did a training under FAO on social media management, but I can't do it because obviously it gets hectic and social media is quite tasking. So now we found somebody who's a freelance that is managing our social media page, and it works out well because then what would happen is you would find that it eats up so much time from the business or from myself as the business owner. I now have to start researching the stories, putting everything together. It's a lot of work, but then there's no shame in outsourcing. You outsource, and it works.
That's way of building a team.
Yes, it's also a good way to build a team. It's really, really a good way. Then you get an opportunity to also support another small business, another entrepreneur in their business. So yeah.
I mean, it's about empowering each other. As you were speaking at the end and you know, of the systems, and you're saying, you know, if investors come or, you know, partners or people, I was thinking, how do you identify the right partners for your company? And where do you find partners? Do you go on social media looking? How do you, for example, I've met entrepreneurs, especially in the agriculture space, that say, oh, I wish I could get somebody I could work with. When we did a podcast on this particular series, we interviewed one guy who was into chili farming in Rwanda. And I remember when, you know, receiving a few alerts, oh, where is he based? I'm doing the same thing. You know, is there, you know, do you have contacts to this person? And you see a lot of those messages flying in. But it comes back to the fact that you can't have your cake and eat it alone. Normally in business, probably you have to partner and find people that are into the same space. How do you identify the right partners, and how do you go about it? And of what importance is it to a startup or a business within, especially in the agriculture space? Because you need to actually get markets. You can't get markets thinking you're going to wake up from Rwanda and go across to Morocco. I'm assuming you have to identify a partner that you can work with. How do you identify these?
So firstly, one, good opportunities also come from expos. You know, when you hear an expo, a community, go to it. Sometimes it looks like it's a lot of work, but you have to put in the time. You know, when you go there, you market yourself, you have your business cards, your little book always with you. So that is an example of a good starting point, because it's hard to build a network if you are just seated at the farm or you're just seated in your office. You need to get out there. Social media is a very good tool now. Things have been made easy. Write stories about your business. Never be ashamed. Whatever little thing you do, if you had a beautiful bag come through your business today, somebody will see some humor in it. If you worked with 2 farmers or you produced the biggest cabbage today, everybody was like, oh, how did they produce that cabbage? How have they mastered to grow a 5 kg cabbage? So social media, very, very good too. I have actually gotten opportunities through social media. I've gotten funding through social media. People saw me on social. Yes, they saw our story. They were like, oh my God, you're doing amazing work. We would like to support you by giving you some money. So social media is also a good tool. And then also even just your network of friends. You know, sometimes we're ashamed to tell. We feel like maybe if I tell my friends and family, they will not see the value in what I'm doing. It's also nice to just, you know, not just have a glass of wine, talk about your dreams with them to say, this is what I want to do, A, B, C, D. One of my first investors in my business is my best friend. She gave me $1,000 to invest in my business. And for me, it gave me the drive to know that, okay, so I'm doing something right, you know, if my own people see the value in what I'm doing, even the other people outside my circle who want to invest in it.
I think I need better friends, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really impressive to hear. One of the things they keep telling us is that your first investors should be your immediate family or friends, and I think we really take it for granted. But as I speak,
I'll give an example. Her name is Chikomborero Chovu. She's part of the business as well. She's an investor, but more on the administrative side of the business. She understands the business, I think, more than I do. You know, she's the one who's always creating system, and investment comes in so many forms. I know we are all so much focused on the money. But if you can get somebody that is able to write a proposal for you, that's an investment. If you can get somebody that is able to create a working manual for you, that is an investment. They've invested in your business. So let's not just be too focused on the money, but also let's be focused on who is bringing value in our business. So
I mean, when you said your friend gave you $1,000, it looks like, you know, good money to start with. A lot of people that you met will be like, I have no startup capital. I have a good idea. I have no money. I have no loan. I have no investor. I have no funds. Do you really need all of that to start?
No, you just need a good idea to start. You need to believe in yourself. When I started, firstly, I started with no money. I did my first training. We did a financial literacy training under a tree in the community, and then took beautiful photos, showed them to the people in my life. They were like, oh my goodness, this is such a good idea. Why don't you do it? This is really nice. You know what? Go for it. So sometimes it's not just about the money. It's also about how can I start with what I have, which is myself, my manpower. How can I start? So it's not really always about the money. Yes, the money is important, but there are also, you need to start doing something. If it's planting, if you're going to use recycled seed that year, use the recycled seed.
That's amazing. As we wind up, there's so much we've learned from you, but if you were to give us tips and tricks on how to successfully or sustainably run a business in the agriculture space, what advice would you give us?
I think the number one advice I would give you is understand your market, research. Agriculture is about understanding what goes in and what you're taking out. So research should be, invest in researching, because when you do your research, you do your market research, where are the products going to go, who's going to be the off-taker for my products, you'll be able to succeed. But then if you go in blindly because you saw a beautiful social media post where somebody is producing 100,000 tomato boxes or 100,000 avocados, and you go into it without fully understanding, do they have an off-taker already? So research is really important in our industry. Otherwise, you are going to be that farmer that ends up at the market in the morning without a buyer for their perishable products, and they end up dumping them there. So invest in researching for your business. It will help you to grow.
Thank you so very much, Zindaba. If I was to take one pick for me, it's when you find soldiers in your team, they'll be able to work. I mean, it's very important to have a team that understands the vision, but also it's very important, like you've mentioned, research and the use of data. I feel like so often in Africa, and I don't want to be stereotypical, but so often in business, we forget to make that effort of going ahead to understand that, what is the market all about? How will my, for example, business be perceived? Who are my clients? So I hope everyone is actually able to learn from that. Zindaba, thanks a lot for having the time to sit down with us, and everybody who has joined in on this particular episode of the Entrepreneur Mindset. Thanks a lot, and we've learned so much, but also so much experience from you, and learning from your journey from being a beauty queen to actually empowering women in your society. Over 3,000 is quite a lot, and I hope we can be able to use some of the knowledge you've shared with us to be able to grow our businesses, not just in agriculture, but in different spaces, especially for myself. I just feel like, oh my God, I've been spending a couple of dollars every day, and I need to go do some QuickBooks. I need to go get some accountant to help me with that. I think that brings us to the end of this podcast. And thanks again for listening in and for watching, and see you next time.
This has been the OYA Entrepreneurial Mindset Podcast. Tune in to stay up to date on each new episode for more inspiring stories. Share your entrepreneurial journey with us using the hashtag #WeNeedOYA. A link to our website and social media is available in the description of the episode.